Namaste. First of all, thank you for letting me talk about my experience in Varanasi. Um, it was the most incredible experience of my life. And, I think it's important to have a perspective from a Westerner. Um, I didn't know very much about Varanasi when I came there. Um, I came to India in 2015, and it's a kind of a very long story. But to make a long story short, it was my first time traveling abroad solo, and I was kind of scared. And I was involved in this travel group online on Facebook. And this Indian guy said, "Why don't you come and stay with my family if you're scared?" I didn't really trust him at first, but I went to India and I met him. And he was totally legit and honest. I stayed with his family and it was amazing. I celebrated Diwali and we went all over New Delhi in his motorcycle. I visited a leper colony. I visited this famous psychic in this small village in New Delhi. It was just a credible experience. And we decided to travel to Varanasi together because he had never been there. And I don't know what made me want to travel there, um, but I had heard something about it. And I didn't know that it was the holiest site in India for Hindus. I didn't know that. I knew nothing about the cremation ceremonies. I knew very little. And there's something called Delhi belly. And for the first 10 days I was there, I was fine. I didn't get sick at all. But I got really, really sick on this overnight train we took. It was crazy what happened to me. I won't go into detail about that because you don't want to know. So when I arrived in Varanasi, I had to see a doctor. I had to go to a hospital, and they gave me some medication, and I got better. Um, and just walking around, we had this experience. We were walking down the street, and my friend said, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" And this bull was chasing a cow, and that's something I've never seen. I knew, before going to India that it was very different from, the United States and Europe, because I'd only been to Europe before. I knew that there would be cows and, there was going to be a lot of different cultural things that I would not see anywhere else. So it was nighttime, and my friend said, "Let's take a boat in the Ganges." And, being kind of ignorant of this place, I didn't even know the Ganges were there. I didn't know about the Ghats. And so we were walking around through all these really cool temples, and we paid this guy to go on this boat. And I still hadn't recovered. I was still kind of sick. And my friend told me, there's these cremation ceremonies that the Hindus believe when you go to Varanasi and you die and you're cremated there, it releases your karma. And I didn't know anything about that. So we're on this boat at night, and I saw, these dead bodies on fire. And I had never seen that before in my life, and I didn't know anything about that. And it was from a distance, so you couldn't actually see, the bodies on fire. And my friend was telling me, their heads can explode and all this stuff. And I didn't hear that, but I wasn't exactly shocked or afraid. I was kind of amazed in a way, and I was interested, I was fascinated. I think maybe other Westerners would be just really shocked and maybe even disgusted that this was happening. But, the whole concept of what I think is the pilgrimage for Hindus to Varanasi, seeing all these temples, hearing this music and the celebrations. And there's a ceremony, I forget what it's called. Someone probably knows what I'm talking about. When you're on this boat, this kind of candlelight ceremony, and where you take a small little paper boat and you put a candle in it, and you light the candle and you put flowers in it. and you're supposed to make three wishes in this boat. And it was just the best, most incredible moment of my life thus far, being on the Ganges, with all this stuff happening that I'd never experienced. And so I made three wishes. And my friend and I were sitting on this boat, and it was dark, and I set my little boat on the water, and I made my three wishes, and I watched it float away. Sorry, this is kind of an emotional thing for me. And I watched it float away and kind of, you know, watched my wishes just float away into the water. And everyone else was doing it. There were all these other boats on the water doing the same thing. So it was just like all these little lights floating on the Ganges and all these, spiritual ceremonies taking place. And it was just unlike anything I've ever experienced. And all the amazing things that happened before that. And after that, I went to Nepal. But I felt this spiritual presence there. The same kind of presence I felt when I went to Amritsar and I saw the Golden Temple. And I just felt God. And there's no other way to explain it. And I really hope to go back one day. So thank you for listening. And if you're thinking about going to India, I would definitely recommend it. Uh, they say that there is no other place like India in the world, and there isn't. And I've been to over 20 countries. I plan to go to a lot more. But so far, India was the best time of my life. And I've been back one more time, and I hope to go again. And maybe even live there. There's just no other place like it. And thank you for uh, allowing me to talk about my experience in Varanasi. Thank you. Uh, Dhaniyavad. Dhaniyavad. I'm mispronouncing. I'm trying to say thank you in Hindi, but thank you for listening.